Hey there. So it's Saturday morning. I didn't get to film very much yesterday, but I was able to go over to my buddy Chris's machine shop just down the street a few miles, and he was able to squeeze us in for a hone job. So I just went over there, put our modified plate. We have one plate that's it's made for the larger head studs, but everything came out real good. Real good. So we are finished up to a 3636 bore now, and I should have some pistons showing up from UPS in a few hours from Line to Line. Huge thanks to my buddy Chris at Maximum Machine and Brian Neal at Line2Line. Obviously without them I'd be stuck right now, so truly appreciate their help with this project and helping me get it turned around quickly. But I'm very happy with how the bores turned out. Everything's great. We're gonna put these pistons in nice and tight. Ring seal's gonna be good. This thing's gonna be making monster power. The last thing I need to work on before we get into the assembly room is the crankshaft. And let's see, there's just a little bit of crap, but it's really not bad. So what I'm gonna do is a little trick I tried on Brian Crane's crankshaft when he broke his iron block. He had a lot of bearing material, including copper, stuck on the center main, and that crank is still running right now with a standard bearing in it. How I did that was use this little eraser deal. This is just a belt dresser, just pulls the junk off the belt, but you need to do it kind of slow to pull all the junk off the belt. If you go fast, it'll melt this rubber material onto the belt. Well, that's what I want it to do. I'm just gonna grab an old, one of our old Scotch-Brite finishing belts like this one, get it really sticky, and then that stickiness will get caught on here and pull whatever bearing material is actually stuck onto the steel journal off, and then we can go through and just put a nice little luster finish on here. But crankshaft looks fantastic, minus number 7 here, but no big deal. We're gonna make it look almost as good as new. So don't have anybody helping me film right now, and this isn't really anything awesome to watch, so I'm not gonna film this part, but I'll show you the results. I've already mic'd the journal. I mic'd it yesterday as well, about 2/10 under the other side, so it's gonna end up being a tad smaller, but no big deal. See y'all in a bit. Hey there, everybody. All right, so here's a little update on the crankshaft. Came out very nice. Let's see right here. I just spritzed her down with some rust inhibitor. It's pretty humid down here, so I need to take a break on this for about an hour and finish up another project that I got interrupted on yesterday. So I'm just gonna leave this guy here right now. Here's a cool little deal I made. Just sits in the little snout. But anyways, I measured the raw journals. We're about 20860 to 20862, so standard. And then over here, we do have a little bit of taper now that I've polished this guy, a little heavier than the others. We're about 2058 here, and then we're down to about, I'm sorry, 2085.8, 2085.8, and then about 2085.0 over here. So we have 0.8 of taper, so no big deal. But I was able to get all the bearing material off, polish all the high spots. We do have a couple low spots on the bottom side, but I'd say they are less than a thou deep. And so what I used was the eraser material loaded up on a very old Scotch-Brite belt to take whatever contaminants I could off the top. Then we got a brand new 240 grit, and for those of you that don't know, you can't just grab a brand new crankshaft belt and go to polishing. You will absolutely take way too much material off. You have to break the belt in. So to break the belt in, I just used a little piece of pipe, something that has a little oxide layer on it. It was pretty good, and then clean that. So we went with a straight 240 grit belt after that. Got all the high spots off. Then we went with a the rougher of the two, so like a medium grit Scotch-Brite belt. And then I finished her off with this cork bond belt. That's my favorite finish, and you can see, I mean, it looks fantastic. It looks like a billet crank should. So anyways, that's where we are now. I'm really happy with how it turned out for as bad as the rod bearing looked. And gonna take care of a couple other things I need to get done in the shop. And we're gonna start blueprinting this bad boy this afternoon. Should have pistons showing up any minute now. So stay tuned. All right, it's Saturday evening. I've been waiting all afternoon for some pistons to show up through UPS, but apparently there was a mechanical delay. Sometime in the middle of the night, pistons showed up to the local hub around 10 o'clock. I thought for sure they'd be here, but apparently I'm gonna have to take a trip over there tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have to look up what time they're open, but hopefully they're open tomorrow morning. Anyways, so now I'm gonna start working on the heads. This was off the passenger side, which is the one with the problem rod. Problem rod was number 4. I don't know why I kept saying number 7 in a previous video, but as you can see, it's just a very minor little detail. Most people wouldn't even be able to see this, probably. That little ding right there, that's from the piston. Same thing with that little ding over there. So the only thing I've done is just deburred, really just this area. There's a little sharp edge right there from the little ding. No big deal. Other than that, I haven't really touched the head. You can see there's still numbers written here from when we serviced it last. So valves look very good, very clean. It's a methanol car, so that's to be expected. So I'm just gonna get some brake clean the deck off a little bit, clean the valves, renumber the valves. Then we're gonna come over here. We're gonna put a pressure test plate on here just as a fixture, and we're gonna use the seat and guide machine here to compress the valve spring so I can pull the locks out, and we can pull the valves out and get the heads apart. So stay tuned. Alright, so I got the passenger side, the right side head, loaded up on the fixture plate, which is our pressure test plate as well for this operation. And we're going to use the spindle here with an adapter. This adapter here. It's got a little plastic insert so it doesn't gall up the titanium retainers or chrome alloy retainers. But one thing I need to do before we start tilting the head and get the retainer kind of level with this is actually two things. I need to change this out. Sorry, I need to change this tool out, which I'm going to try to film my best by myself. And then I also need to just unsettle these locks a little bit. So those of you that aren't familiar with taking you know, high performance cylinder heads apart, or even cylinder heads with lots of miles, the valve locks will a lot of times be stuck. So you'll go to compress the spring, you know, pushing down on just the retainer, it'll take the whole valve with it. So you can either barely tap the valve from the bottom side, or you can just tap the top with a tool and a hammer. I'm just gonna use a nice little rubber mallet and just unsettle. You're just gonna shock it a little bit so it's loose, and it will come apart when you compress the valve spring in the machine. So anyways, I'm gonna show you how I do that. Now we've got to change this tool out. So how this works is it's a Morse taper. This little pin here will not allow the quill to go all the way up, and that is what kind of loosens the tool and allows it to fall out. So let's see if I can get a good view on here. Okay, there we go. So lower down spindle, we pulled the pin out, and now we're just going to slam it to the top. Boom. That's all that holds it in, just the taper. Alright, now we need to pull it down, put our pin back in, otherwise it'll drop the tool the first time it goes up. Alright. Make sure we're in all the way. Alright, now we're ready to remove some valve springs. So let me get the head flipped over and oriented so we're pushing straight down on the valve springs. We're going to start with the exhaust side first, and once I have that set up, start rolling again. Howdy there. Alright, so here we go. See here, we're having the same problem. We're pushing the valve, the entire valve down. So I'm gonna have to lock it here on the quill, and then we're just gonna tap the valve from the bottom side with the butt end of this hammer. All right, there we go. Nothing too crazy. And I forgot my magnet, so I'll be right back. All right. Got our locks here. Throw them in our bin. Come up. And we got our first guy done. Can't pull the valve out yet, so it's just gonna sit there. This is our own private label retainer. Had a manually bead lock in there. I don't know if y'all can see that very good, but it was doing just fine. There was 0 scarring in there, and top of the spring looks really good too. So does the bottom. So we'll go ahead and we're going to test the springs, because I'm a data guru and I have everything logged. So before we even touch the valves, we're going to go ahead and we're going to check the valve stem length. That's the length from the seat pocket up with no valve seal or shim. Get somewhat lined up here. Down, and we're kind of having the same problem here. We're gonna have this problem on almost every spring, I think, and that's very typical, especially with the RPM we're turning. But there's nothing really bad. It's just that the lock is grabbing the valve a little bit harder than we're pushing down on the spring, which is kind of to be expected. One little tap and we're up. Now I'm gonna compress the spring down a little bit farther so I can get the locks with the magnet. Over. All right, and no reason to film the rest. I'm just gonna keep on going down the line, and then we'll follow up once I get them all out. See you in a bit. All right, so I got the head taken off the machine. I got all the valve springs out, and I'm just starting to take the exhaust valves out. Got the valve seals off. Man, sometimes I impress myself. No doubt over 100 passes, 9,000 plus RPM shift points pretty much every pass. And I know a lot of people, you know, joke around and think I'm joking, you know, when I hashtag on social media 9K all day. Well, I'm not. So I'll go over all the details on this valve train setup, but look at those exhaust valves right there. Look how well they were sealing. It's almost like they look like they're black nitrided and then they've just been ground. It doesn't get any better than that. And for all the young guys out there that, you know, don't got somebody backing them, just like me, you know, self-made right here. You don't need the newest equipment to do this kind of work, okay? The first valve job I ever cut was July of 2015, right here on this Peterson TCM25. That's all I've ever used. Learn the skill, learn the tool, get your machine tooled up as good as possible, take your time, don't cut any corners, and yeah, you will get results. So let me pull the rest of this head apart and we'll go through it. All right, it's getting late. It's about 10 o'clock Saturday night. It's gonna be my last little segment for the evening. Got all the valves out. They all look great. I got the cylinder head over here. I got one intake seat. Got a little smushed in, just a little bit. I mean, just a very little bit. So we will have to replace that seat, and unfortunately I don't have that exact seat to replace it with. But even if I did, I'd have to go to the next size, so it doesn't matter. We're gonna put a Durabond 70,000 or 7,000 series seat in there. That's what I typically use when I'm not using the Mold Star stuff. That's what we used in David Farlow's cylinder head, and it lasted 3 seasons, and you know, until it retired. So exhaust valve seats look fantastic. This head hasn't even been washed yet. Intake valve seats look good too. All the lines are nice and crispy. Like I said, we just have this one problem. So just pulled out the oil restrictor, and I thought I might find some trash in there, but miraculously enough, it was very clean. So oil galleries plugs are out. We're gonna throw this girl in the jet wash real quick, and might throw her here in the hot sink real quick as well, and just wash out the oil galleries. And then I'm gonna take my ass home and get some sleep, because I feel like I have been running a marathon. And we'll be back fairly early tomorrow morning to get the other head taken apart, get the heads freshened up, and get ready to go back together. So, till next time, adios. Well, good morning. It's Sunday morning. I waiting for the hot tank to warm up, so I went ahead and took apart the driver's side head. The only thing I need to do is pull the oil gallery plugs, the oil restrictor, and the spark plugs, but got the springs out this morning. Valve seats look really good. It's dirty. I haven't obviously washed it or even wiped anything down yet. All the valves look good. I got them next door. So as far as the pistons go, I don't think I'm gonna see them today. I'm not gonna exhaust or waste any energy trying to get them. I have plenty to keep me busy, so they can just show up tomorrow, and then I'll ask to have the Saturday delivery waived. So no big deal. This other intake seat next to the one that was the problem that I seen last night, it too just has a little bit of a lip there. So that tells me we either had a super high cylinder pressure spike, or we tried to compress a little bit of fuel, or we were floating the valves just a tad bit, which I'm thinking it's floating the valves just a little bit. This engine probably had at least 5, but probably more like 8 to 10 passes where it had a crankshaft signal issue. That was just due to the reluctor wheel. It just wasn't a good combination. And so I'm wondering if we had a big RPM spike. Either that, or it could have just blown the tires off a couple hits. And the valves do not like to float. They want to follow the camshaft, or the follower needs to follow the camshaft lobe on the way down. If it doesn't, you just beat the shit out of the seat. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get this other head cleaned, and then we'll go into the assembly room. I'm gonna pull up the old blueprints, and we're gonna start looking at valve tip height, or valve stem heights, and that'll tell us you know, what's moved. So whatever's moved needs attention. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like we got quite a bit of work today. My overall goal for today is to finish up a couple other little jobs I got going. I got to dowel a set of rod bearings for another set of aluminum rods, so I'm going to do those. I'll film that in a separate video. I have to dowel a set for Brian, throw some main bearings in the block, blueprint that, get the crank in the assembly room, blueprint that. I have the piston rings here, so I can go ahead and file fit those. So plenty to keep me busy. So I'll try to film as much as I can. Follow along for the journey. See ya. Hey everyone, it's Monday morning, about 10 o'clock. Just got pistons here from UPS. So we will be making some room in the assembly room here in a little bit and getting ready to blueprint. I ended up not messing with the cylinder heads much farther last night. Had to get a couple other jobs kind of scheduled up for workflow this week, and I have about an hour's worth of work I just got to get out of the way so we can keep work flowing through the shop for the rest of the guys this morning. So this afternoon we'll be going ham on this thing, so stay tuned.